This is the Bucks POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Milwaukee Bucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Milwaukee Bucks snapping their 5-game losing streak, returning home to Fiserv Forum. Amid all the trade rumors, the Milwaukee Bucks get a feel-good victory this evening over the Chicago Bulls at home, 131-115. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Locked On Bucks postcast. I'm your host. My name is Brandon Sneide, joined alongside, as always, the Wisconsin Badger legend himself, Mr. Brian Butch. So much to get into this evening on the program. We'll discuss the turning point in the Bucks victory tonight. We'll discuss our player of the game. I have a hint. I have a guess where I think Mr. Butch will go with that. We'll break all of that down as the Bucks do get the 131-115 victory. And your thoughts, your reactions, and yes, you guessed it, your celebrations welcomed on the program this evening. As always, a Locked On Bucks postcast. It's free and available wherever you guys get audio podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get an audio podcast. You can now get the Locked On Bucks postcast, as well as the Locked On Bucks daily show with Justin and Camille, wherever you guys get podcasts. And the cool part is you can see our beautiful faces over on YouTube, where we're live right now talking about a 131-115 Milwaukee Bucks victory. And Butchie, this is only the second time since we've been doing this show. It hasn't been a long time. It's been enough, though, about 2 weeks now, since we've been able to chat about a Bucks win. So without further ado, your initial reaction after the 131 victorious Milwaukee Bucks win today over the Bulls.
Yeah, I think first when I look at this was here was my thing is initially the question was going to become, with all the stuff that happened in Chicago, what kind of injury with all the trades, what kind of effort were you going to get? Because when trades come through a team like they came through Chicago, you usually have sloppy play at first. And that's exactly what it was. The energy and effort from the Chicago Bulls was terrible. The Bucks took advantage of it. Now, the Bucks have had more than enough rumors going on in their locker room as well. Now, theirs have been longer.
You say that. I haven't heard any yet, but go on.
Right. Well, and theirs has been longer, and there hasn't been a deal made yet. Whereas Chicago, there's been a couple deals made that have changed what they're trying to do. So, not that I anticipated the Bucks to come out and play the way that they did, because I still was impressed. I thought the effort was there. I thought with no Bobby Portis, like where were they going to get it? Like, so I wasn't expecting Milwaukee to come out and necessarily, play, especially the first half. When you look at how many points they scored in the first half, what they were able to do, season high as far as points in the first half that they scored, like that was great. Second half, I think, is more realistic of what the Bucks are as a team. I thought the reason you score a season high in the first half is probably because the Bulls aren't playing with great energy or attention to detail. I think that was part of that. So not to take anything away from Milwaukee, but there is, let's be real. I mean, that the Bulls' effort in the first half was not good.
No, but how much do you credit that to the Bucks instead of the Bulls not being great on, effortly, you're talking about the Bulls' effort. How much credit do you give the Bucks? And I know it's hard, Butchie, at now with the victory, 19-29 on the season, 10-12 at the home court. How much credit do you give that to the Bucks? Because it felt like, to me, the Bucks were dictating a little bit of that out of Chicago, right? The Bucks were getting in transition. The Bucks were playing aggressive defense. They were getting. It's the biggest thing with this Bucks team is we've kind of talked about it a little bit, is getting or not allowing those offensive rebounds. Today they minimized those. They minimized the turnovers. You had a great start from Kyle Kuzma. You got production from AJ Green. Butchie, AJ Green scored more in the first quarter. He had 9 points in that first quarter. He made 3 3-pointers than he's had in the last handful of games combined. Like, I do understand where you're coming from. Where it comes to the Bulls' effort, they're also undermanned. I think it is worth noting the Bulls making a trade earlier today, so you could take that into account. Despite losing by 16, like they were obviously down a few guys. Josh Giddey also not playing. You mentioned it, Bobby Portis not playing for the home team. Amir Coffey getting the start for the Milwaukee Bucks. But for me, it was like that initial surge off the bench. Like the Bucks just hadn't had that off of the bench. And we talked about AJ Green. He didn't come off the bench, but getting Gary Trent Jr. off the bench, Butchie, I thought was huge coming off the bench. He hit a couple threes in that first quarter for the Bucks, and that kept them going. And obviously, listen, man, we might have to trademark it. Positive Pete Nance, baby. It's 15 points off the bench. Like, you got bench contribution from Gary Trent Jr. and Pete Nance, 30 points between those two guys off of the bench. Cole Anthony leaving with an ankle injury late in this game. That's what this has been missing. Now, I'm not saying the Bucks have figured everything out. I'm not saying they're going to make a run to the NBA Finals and what the future holds going forward. We're talking solely about this game, but this was one of the best games they've played in quite some time. Like, I don't think that's hyperbolic. I mean, the bench played great. The energy was great. Kyle Kuzma was great. Yeah. I overall, like, if you're a Bucks fan, and maybe you're rooting for losses at this point, but it was a really good start to finish game. There was a lull in the third quarter, but they were able to quickly rectify that.
Well, yeah, and I think the biggest thing too, though, is when you look at that first half, this Chicago team is a team that wants to get out and run in fast in transit, and they didn't. I think that's one of the biggest things that I look at with this in general is I'm looking up how many fast breaks. I think they have 12 total in the game, fast break points. If I remember seeing that number correctly.
I'll tell you in a second. 18. I had it pulled up. Okay.
They had 18, and Milwaukee had 13, but it was single digits at half, which to me tells you the attention to detail is where it needed to be at. The ball was moving really well. They were knocking down shots. They make a season high as far as 23 threes as well. So
that was huge.
I mean, that's part of that as far as, scoring the ball and doing what you want to do. And I think that played a big factor in this game. But the energy that I use the word this a lot, Brandon, in different things, but you need guys that are energy givers. Like it's fair to say there's not a superstar on the floor tonight. Is that fair?
I would completely agree with that. Yeah.
Both teams.
Although Butchie, I've been on the Ryan Rollins bandwagon since last year, so I don't want to toot my own horn, but he's not a superstar.
I'm saying both teams. Yeah. Like there wasn't a superstar. Both teams. Now we could say I do so. Like I mean, there's like you throw out guys that whatever. Like, but they're not a superstar as far as what you look at and what's gonna happen there overall. So then it becomes not an isolation game anymore, because when you have superstars, the game becomes isolation. It really does. When you don't, now all of a sudden the ball is moving a lot more. You're sharing it, and then it becomes which team was best at that part of it. And I thought when you looked at that first half, especially how it ended, 17 assists for Milwaukee. Like, that's a great number to have in one half. And when you're doing that, now all of a sudden you're getting what you want. And they were very, very, very active in that.
The Milwaukee Bucks, 77 points at half. That's also a season high as well. So season highs kind of all over the place for the Milwaukee Bucks. You mentioned, moving the ball, great ball movement for this team, getting the energy kept going at entire first half. And then we'll talk about turning points coming up later on throughout the show. I do want to take it a little bit beyond this game, Butchie, before we get into those things, because this is a team that has lost 5 games in a row, 19-29 now on the season. You had a great story on your personal YouTube channel, Butchie's Den, which I thought was remarkable. The details behind that trade deadline season, everybody in that Bucks locker room is kind of looking around, right? Like there's nobody on that roster right now. Obviously there's Giannis, but he's not playing. That is probably safe or feels safe, right? Like it can happen to anybody. It happened to you at one point in your career. What does a win like this do for a team? Obviously they're reeling. Obviously they're way down in the standings and looking all the way up in the Eastern Conference. But what can a win like this feel like at this time of year where guys don't really know if they're going to be here in the next 48 hours? Bucks fans don't know if their favorite player is going to be here in 48 hours. They lost 5 games in a row. It hasn't been the season any of us envisioned or had hoped for. But like, put the human element side on it. Like, what does a win like this feel like for an organization, for a locker room that just hasn't met their expectations this year?
Yeah, I think what it is you walk into the locker room and there's a little bit of relief for about an hour, and then it's back to reality. But you get in there because you do need, like, winning games is tough in general. It just, like, it's hard. It's a long season, and this group needed something to be happy about for a little bit. And you look at, especially the guys that have played, like, Kyle Kuzma and what he's been and where he, what the expectations are, and, did the trade, and there was, you're supposed to come in, you're supposed to help this team in the playoffs. That didn't work. Now all of a sudden you've got a year that you're trying to maneuver through. Your name's in it. If the Bucks can get assets, if it's tank mode, now all of a sudden your name's thrown around in a lot of those things. So to play this way, I think really does help this group for about an hour, but they all know what it is. Like, when I got traded, we were at, the ownership, or not ownership, our team came to me and said, hey, and this was back in the D-League times, but we're going to drop your salary from, the standard A contract to a standard C contract, which was a whopping $15,000 back then. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. So we agreed to part. Like, there's some conversations I would assume that are happening. And there's some conversations where guys are going to be shocked too, because it's just the reality of when you're having superstars involved in this, there's going to be some stuff that has to be quiet too. And that's where the shock is going to come into some of these guys. And I think we saw that a little bit today, the shock in Chicago. I do. I think it played a factor. I really do.
That's a great point. Yeah. Because that would be a handful of hours before this one tipped off. The Milwaukee Bucks get the 131-115 victory. The trade deadline just a few days away, but we're breaking down the Bucks' 19th victory of the season. Coming up after our break, when did this one turn for the Milwaukee Bucks in favor of the Bucks finally getting into that win column? And lastly, at the end of the show, we'll hand out our Locked On Bucks POSTCAST player of the game. That's all coming up on the Locked On Bucks POSTCAST right after this. Tonight's victorious Locked On Bucks POSTCAST is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's a last call, ladies and gentlemen, for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to that final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and you get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Again, bet $5 if you win, $200 in bonus bets. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, unfortunately, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. Today's victorious Locked On Bucks POSTCAST is brought to you by Indeed. Hiring just isn't about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who know what they're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move to make, because instead of hoping that the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with qualifying candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit specific criteria like skills, certifications, and locations. And with Sponsored Jobs, your posts get seen by candidates who are actually the right fit for you. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Job. Listeners of the Locked On Bucks POSTCAST will get $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium service it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions will apply. Hiring, do it the right way. Do it with Indeed. And lastly, our Locked On Bucks POSTCAST is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move about your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local tax expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out what forms you need, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or even just connect online. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just make sure you file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local. Once again, TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. It is a victorious Locked On Bucks postcast, a 131-115 victory for our Milwaukee Bucks. They finally snapped that 5-game losing streak. The trade deadline's looming. Deals are already flying left and right. But nonetheless, the Milwaukee Bucks get the victory, find themselves back in the win column. Now 19-29 on the season. Without further ado, when did this one turn in favor of our Milwaukee Bucks?
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Started off fast. Butchie hit a speed bump there in the middle of the third quarter or so, and then the Bucks put the cruise on in the fourth quarter. When did you think this one turned, Butchie, in favor of the Bucks in a 131-115 win?
Well, I think there are two spots. Obviously, the start, when you get your season high as far as points in the first half, that's a pretty good turning point as far as gaining control. But the game's sitting there at 84-90 with 4 minutes in the third, and it's like, like, are we really gonna? Are the Bucks really gonna lose this game? That to me was a part. And gosh, I ever since we've started this, this guy just keeps coming up, and I just want to just scratch my head. But it's Pete Nance with the
positive Pete.
It is, but he comes in, it's 84-89. He comes in, hits a three. Then next possession down, gets an offensive rebound. Gary Trent Jr. 3. Then back cut, layup. Back cut from the other side, layup on the next possession. This was after a 19-8 run by Chicago in the first, upper part of that third quarter. So the turning point to me is the Pete Nance stretch there. That was a three he created, a backdoor cut, and now all of a sudden the lead ballooned again at the end of the third, and you're feeling really good about where you're at. And then obviously that trailed to a lot more, but people are on this, Brandon, going to say, man, you are like a Pete Nance fanatic.
Hey, I'll do it. We'll do it. Well, we can pen that on the show. It doesn't bother me.
No, I don't want that on me. Trust me. I think Pete Nance is a really good role player for this team. I don't think it's a championship role player that he will become. But he's done a good, he's done a real, that stretch to me, it's a 6-point game. And I'm seriously thinking, are the Bucks going to lose? Are they going to lose? Because it felt like a lot of momentum was there. And then I felt like Pete Nance Jr. got the momentum back for Milwaukee, which caused the run, which then caused, the win.
It's funny because I'm not going to ever claim to be the smartest when it comes to anything. Quite frankly, certainly not basketball. And between the two of us, Butchie, I think it's safe to say you're in the lead when it comes to IQ of the game of basketball. But it's literally that moment is what I had written down in my notes. And I'll take it one further. Pete Nance, there's about just under 4 minutes left. Kobe White tried to put the Bulls on his back in that third quarter. Absolutely. And he did pretty darn good job. You mentioned it. The Bucks were up 26 at one point. They worked it down to 9 and 6. And they were getting there. And it did feel like the game was in the balance. Pete Nance, you mentioned, the couple of things that he did. He also had a big three with about 3.5, 3:45 or so left in that game to give the Bucks a 90-80 advantage, which I also had written down in my notes. But not to make sure we have the same turning point, I'm going to go to the first half for the Milwaukee Bucks because
both are in play for sure.
Both are in play. The third quarter was the moment, right? The Bulls outscored the Bucks 37-28 in that third quarter, and things get interesting in that third quarter. I wouldn't say it got closer, got necessarily scary, but it did feel like the game was in the balance. But that first half, 39 points in the first quarter for the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't remember.
This is coming off of their season low of points in a game, their last game.
It felt like that was the kind of set the tone for this game. And then obviously they outscored them again. They scored 38 in the second quarter and outscored them by 10 in the second quarter. And you're at halftime with a very comfortable lead. And it felt, even if they had a moment in that third quarter, which we both would agree that they obviously did. Kobe White and the Bulls, surged back in this one a little bit in that third quarter. But because of what they did in that first half, gave them a little bit of enough cushion to make sure they maneuvered and got the victory. A 131-115 victory. Before we leave, though, Butchie, it's the second time that we get to do a victorious Locked On Bucks postcast player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
I think I know where you're going with this one, Butchie, but I don't want to spoil it. So without further ado, the Bucks 131-115 victorious Locked On Bucks postcast player of the game for you, Butchie, is
Thanasis. 2 minutes, no points, 2 rebounds, but I mean, just great effort out there from
energy. Energy matters.
Come on. Anytime Thanasis is in the game, life is good if you're a Bucks fan. So you get a little joy there. But I'm all about Kyle Kuzma. You just look at what he was able to do. I thought he was efficient. I thought he was, energy-wise, he was good. That's kind of my biggest complaint with Kyle Kuzma. Sometimes you look out there and like, are you even trying? Where is the energy effort? But there was laser focus out there from what he did from the start too.
It was.
I think it was the tone. That's why to me, like I look at Rounds, he's got a career high 10 assists. Between both of them, they got 16 assists between Rounds. That's what you need from that group as well. And it helps when you make your season high 23 made threes. Like that's going to help as far as your assist rates, obviously. You can pass, and when the ball goes in, that's the assist. Like, that's a good thing, right, when you shoot it like that. But I thought just the focus, and that trickled down to everybody else.
I don't disagree one bit. I thought maybe, again, I'm a little biased. I've been higher on Kyle Kuzma all year long than I think a lot of Bucks fans have been. It's another one of those guys that when he got traded for, it was a lose-lose situation for him, right? You get traded for Chris Middleton. Nobody's going to want you.
Bottom line, though, Brand, that trade was the right trade.
They got better. Like, you can't argue.
It didn't work out.
It didn't work out, but you got
better.
You improved in that moment.
Yeah.
Kyle Kuzma was on the list for me. I'm going to go Kyle Kuzma's the easy one, 31 and 10. And I, again, you're right, Butchie. It was my turning point that first half. He was a huge part of that first half for the Milwaukee Bucks, plus 18 in the plus or minus category. But I'm going to go with a guy who Bucks fans have been calling for to do something, to give them some kind of production, to either get him out of the starting lineup or do something with him. I'm going to go with AJ Green. I thought he was a big part of that first half for the Milwaukee Bucks. I mentioned the numbers he put up in that first quarter with those three-pointers made. He had 17 points tonight for the Bucks in 30 minutes. Those are the numbers you need from AJ Green. Like, you get the contract that you got.
5 threes. Like, you need the spacing.
You need the spacing, and you need to have those. You got to be able to sink those shots. That's what you're on the court for. That's what you got paid for. So I'm going to go with AJ Green in this one with his 17 points, 5 for 9, as you mentioned, from the 3-point distance. The most important thing about all this, though, the Bucks do get the 131-115 victory. And you mentioned it, Butchie. You get about an hour or so. It kind of feels good. Well, the Pelicans coming into town the next day, tomorrow. So the Bucks won't have much time to rest. We'll be breaking down that one after the final whistle. My thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in. Thank you for making Locked On Bucks part of your day each and every single day. And friendly reminder, guys, free and available wherever you guys get audio podcasts. We're also free and available over on YouTube, where we're live right now. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that thumbs up on our videos. And do me a favor, hit the notification bell. Get notified when we go live. And as I mentioned, we will go live tomorrow after the final whistle, after the Bucks will take on the Pelicans in Milwaukee. For Butchie, for myself, we will talk to you tomorrow night. And as always, make sure you stay locked on Bucks.